You guys see that? It's still snowing in San Antonio. I know it's not that big a deal, but in San Antonio it kind of is. It's been snowing like all week long. And so we're just kind of restless here, and I haven't put on my makeup or anything, but wanted to do a video that's a follow-up to another video I did a couple years ago on how to create live dynamic pads with your acoustic guitar and other things too. Most of you are on my channel because I lead a ministry here in San Antonio, but the major portion of that ministry is running a prayer room throughout the week. So the days we don't have service, myself and others are in the prayer room singing and praying to Jesus. And it's so much fun, but all these sounds from my pedal board have been a 7-year just exploration of getting bored with what you know. Besides being a pastor, like, music is a full-time aspect of my job, and so when you do that full-time, you get bored with what you know, you get bored with what you're hearing, and I'm always looking for new creative ways to just make the prayer room fun practically to my ear. I did a video a couple years ago on how to create live dynamic pads that's been viewed a whole lot, but I wanted to do a follow-up because I still use some of the same techniques with the reverb. I'll recap that really shortly, but I wanted to do like a part 2 of sorts because I've updated my pedal board, changed some things around, and I've really gotten into micro looping and creating textures around pads. And so that's what I wanted to show you in this video. But before I turn the camera around, you might be here because of the music, but again, I am a pastor, I love Jesus, and I just released a book this last summer called Hearing Love that's a commentary on the greatest commandment. And if you would like to go pick that up, it's on Amazon in paperback and ebook, and I'll link everything in the description. So let's turn this around and I'll show you how I put textures underneath my reverb tones now. So much fun. Alright, hey everyone, here's my feet, and if you've seen the first video, you'll recognize some of the changes. I'll just go through my chain real quick so you know what you're looking at, but the ones I'm going to really focus on is this hologram microcosm and these 3 Chase Bliss pedals, and then I'll kind of do a recap with these 2 reverb pedals here for you so you know like where the soft part of my sound is coming from, and you're going to have more of the micro loops and textures coming from those 4 pedals. But I have my compressor, which I'm not going to run for the video because I get a better recording on my acoustic when I don't do the compressor, but I use it live. This whole setup is to play acoustic and electric live. So there's things on here that I don't necessarily use for the acoustic, and there's techniques when I'm playing live on electric that I don't use, but I wanted like just one board for all of them. The reason I never put this on the board, and I have this kind of, I have a spot where I can either connect those wires or I can like put this in my signal chain stereo, is because I like to use this hologram microcosm on my bass. And so this pedal here really does a whole lot of what I got all this for. I spent 6 years putting this together, what you see before you, and some trial and error, some pedals I don't have anymore. But this, if they would have had this 6 years ago, I don't know if I would have all of this right now. But I'm happy to play with it all now that it's all done. But that's the compressor, that's my boost. I really only use that for electric guitar, but I do use a compressor live on acoustic. Then I go up the chain and I've got organ machine instead of POG that I like to use for swells and things, and I use this for swells and stuff too. It's a Mel 9, and it mimics like chorus and cello and stuff. It sounds cheesy by itself, but if you mix the right reverb and delay on it, it sounds really good, and you can make some really cool vocal or string pads with it. I also have my sister's Blessed Mother Overdrive, which is an amazing sounding overdrive, and it has a wet-dry blend on it. Then I have this synth pedal, which is the most unbelievable synth pedal for guitars. And this thing is a preset controller for that, so I have 4 saved presets for different synths that I use that'll turn that guy on. This is the Mood from Chase Bliss. I'm going to highlight that today. It basically does micro looping and delay, so just some immediate playback textures. This one is another one from Chase Bliss. By the way, this is just my power source. No sounds come from that. I just plug everything up to it. And it's the Walrus Audio Phoenix. I have had no issues with it and had it for a while. Here's another Chase Bliss Therme pedal. It's an analog delay, but it does pitch shifting and modulation on it. And I use this for textures too. This is the spatial delivery. It's like an auto wah, but it has a sample and hold function. If you've heard some of my especially some of the older albums, you'll hear the sample and hold feature on this. This is the chorus pedal from Walrus Audio. It's the Julia, and I like it. They just came out with a new one that has a tap tempo, which actually might be a nice feature that I would probably like to trade that one for. Then I come all the way back over here. Oh, and my volume pedal is right after the synth, by the way, so it cuts off the synth and everything, all these pedals. That way I can do the swells with those guys, and the synth. But from the chorus, I go to the Chase Bliss Blooper, which is my first like actual looper pedal. This will do 40-second loops on it. It's not stereo, but I'll come out of here into the hologram mono input, and then I come out stereo into the Seraphim, which is a reverb and shimmer pedal by New Neighbor, into another reverb pedal from Big Sky. Then I go into a tremolo, because I like having the tremolo afterwards, because I can break up the long reverb pads and make some really cool like sequencing stuff. So that's the reason my tremolo is after the pads. I use it more as a sequencer than I do a real tremolo. But I'll use real tremolo from time to time. And I know I'm breaking some of the rules, but my main delay pedal is after my reverb. Mainly because it's stereo and it still has a looper on it. I use the looper on this. But I still use it for, again, just a good delay. And then this is just a looper. 2 5-minute loop banks, and then has different effects that you can do. So most of my longer loops are on here, and I'll do shorter and more dynamic loops on here if I want to take out parts real fast, because it has a layers knob. All these pedals, you can watch other reviews exclusively on those pedals and go really in depth, especially this one and this one. You can be stuck for hours like looking at the functionality of both of these, and I really enjoy exploring them. And they're kind of similar, but this is like purely manual and this is more preset driven. And so it can do similar things, but I find with the presets I stumble across sounds that I never would have thought of with this, or it would be really difficult to get live like right when you need it. So that's where that one comes in handy. This one is really nice to be able to sit down and really manipulate stuff and go through the effects. So anyway, I just want to recap with my reverb sound. Again, I'll be using my acoustic guitar. It's a Taylor 714 with that Expression System number uno in it. And I just run straight into the Scarlett 2i2 interface, and I'm just recording in GarageBand, guys. So you'll hear the mic when I'm talking, and then you'll hear the GarageBand track playing underneath me while I'm walking you through this. But let's do reverb real quick. I'm not going to go through all the sounds that I showed you in the first video. Some of them I don't have anymore. You'll notice the Old Blood Noise pedal is gone. But this is still just such an amazing reverb pedal, and the combination of being able to have a nice meaty reverb and then bring the shimmer on has been beautiful. And so my go-to sound right now has been the Bloom setting on this, and I have it really dark. I like that dark, thick reverb pad right now, and that's been that way for a while now. I've kind of settled in that, and then I'll use this in to bring an octave up reverb layer. So like if I'm going into chorus or I'm bringing the dynamics up, I'll bring that in and I'll play that for you. And if you saw the first video, you'll remember the sound. So it's just that beautiful reverb that just sits there nice and dark. It's not overwhelming, doesn't overtake anything. But if you're going to start building up, I'll bring the shimmer in to help increase the dynamics a bit. So that's the dark reverb still, but then you heard when I turned the shimmer on underneath. So the rest of the video, I'm probably just going to leave this dark reverb on and show you what I've got with micro looping. Now this Mood has two sides where it has more of a delay side over here, then it has a micro looper. This middle button is a clock where you can speed stuff up, slow it down. With the looper side and the delay side, You can change, again, speed, you can change direction, you can chop it up into little bits, but the looper is an always listening looper. You cannot set a start and stop time. The time is set by the clock. There is a MIDI in if you're recording, and you can let the clock match the MIDI clock. But I stay all analog as much as I can in my signal, and because of the slow and the ambient way that I play, I haven't had an issue with the time clock. But what this does, you'll see this blinking red light above my big toe here. That's the length of the loop that's listening. Now you can stretch that a little bit, you can slow it down, but it's not meant to be a looper where you can build loops. It's more to be like this drone underneath. And so it's on one of my presets now. And since it's always listening, I'm going to just noodle a little bit, then hit the button, and that turns it on from what it just heard. And I have it set to play backwards and repeat in kind of a granular way what it just heard. So it becomes this texture underneath what I'm playing that was taken from my playing. So it ends up being a really neat little feature. So let me hit that real quick. So when I stop playing, you can kind of hear it come back to the forefront of the sound. And so it just stays there forever. The one thing with the mood is that your loop does decay over time, so it'll start sounding more granular and crunchy as it goes on and on and on. And so you can't keep this going forever, but it's nice for a song or two or for little breaks if you're going to hit something. So we'll turn that off. The next thing I have is this Therme pedal. Now this is a delay, and so instead of more of the droning sound that's just going to repeat like this does, this brings in a delay, but it has a low pass filter so you can cut out some of the high frequencies, so it sounds like a different guitar, and you can shift the pitch up an octave, a fifth, a fourth, or down, or you can leave it your same signal but still re-EQ it and modulate it, which has been one of my favorite effects. But I'll flip this over to one of my presets and show you the pitch shifted delay. So nice if you wanted to add a little bit to like break up the monotony of a drone over here. One of my more recent favorites is the modulated delay. So I'm just going to strike a chord once, let you hear the signal, and you'll hear the modulation on the delay, which I forgot to mention. These knobs down here, they control parameters on different pedals. So this one controls the length of my tail on that one. This one I have controlling the depth of the tremolo, and then this one controls like length of tails or tone on reverb. But back here, here's the modulated delay. So I love the pedals that help me make it sound like I have other instruments playing with me, and that's one of the ones that provides just another technique, even though it's following my instrumentation. Just being able to change the EQ shape a little bit, modulate it, just makes it so satisfying. One of my common techniques is I'll set a micro loop in here and I'll hit the modulated delay and just noodle around. So let me do that real quick. reverb. So the soft pad sound you're hearing is coming from here, and these are just textures that come in front of this to help build the pad and just be another texture that provides some cool instrumentation. Now this does something similar. Like, you can change speed and direction of your loops, but it's got so many effects that you can like chop up the loop, you can scramble it and make like these really cool rhythms, which I might show you real quick. But right now I have it set, my volume's down, and there's two buttons on the bottom of here that my toe is pointing to that you can turn on and off. That's why it's at the bottom of the board, so I can turn it off with my toe or turn it on with my toe while I'm playing. But right now I have the EQ shape to cut all the highs out on this one by this effect being on. Now there's another effect over on this side, and what I've done is I've sped it up. So it takes all the bite of the highs out, and then again I have the volume down. So I want to do something similar to what you heard with this, but I can set the time that I want it to record myself. And so sometimes with this one, I'll just noodle and pick around before I start playing chords, and then I'll set a loop to play over. And on the Hearing Love soundtrack I use that technique, and I use this pedal quite a bit. It does a lot of fun stuff. I don't want to take hours to go through everything this one does, but just showing how I use it most frequently. And you have 40 seconds with this one. I'm going to end the loop here. And you'll start hearing it play back. Turn my guitar off and leave this going, but just to show you some of the things you can do with this, I'm going to turn this up. You can add some wow and flutter where it adds purposeful, like record static, and starts modulating some of the effects to make it, or give it an aged sound, like an aged tape. I can also record that, so while that red light's blinking, it'll record the effects into the loop. And then turn off once it's done recording, so it won't double the effects. And then you can go to other things, like I have a dropper here that I'll turn on. That'll start like glitching out some of your loop, and that's been a really cool effect. So speed, direction, glitch, modulation, like this thing does so much stuff, and it's got all these switches on top as all the Chase Bliss pedals do, and you can program so much. This pedal is so much fun to play with. When we do full like intercession or worship with the word meditation sets in the prayer room, I use this if I'm like, oftentimes I'll be the only musician playing, but I can use this to get like a full band sound, put beats in it, and all the layers are there, so I can take parts out, add them in when we need the dynamics. So this pedal's been so much fun in the prayer room. Now with this one, I do want to show you like how wacky this one will get, because I use everything kind of soft and ambient, because that's my preferred, but this can get wacky, and sometimes I do use it for a rhythmic texture. Alright, so I'm just going to pluck a C sharp minor and then we'll scramble it up and you can hear how wacky it'll get. If you've heard the He Is Mine song on the Hearing Love soundtrack on my Bandcamp, this is exactly the technique I used to be that rhythmic texture that guided the whole song. Anyway, the wild stuff can get useful, and again, this thing does so much. If you're interested, watch the reviews on it if you haven't heard about it. The next one is similar, but again, this is more manual driven, this is more preset driven, where it takes micro loops and it can take like whole loop phrases, and it functions kind of like a delay, but it's different because it takes those loop layers and it does all kinds of things with loop layers. There's massive amount of presets on this pedal, and it gives me like a similar feeling as to what this or this does, but what's unique to this is it tracks so well that it can be used pretty dynamically as well. That's why I love running my bass through it. I run everything through this. I've used keys, guitar, both acoustic and electric, and bass guitar, like all through this, and this is just a wonderful performing pedal. But just to give you some of what it does, I'll run through some of my presets that I have saved in here. So that's from the Warp preset, and it's a multi-delay. It also does some pretty rad sequencing too. And then, because I can, I'll show it to you through my bass. This is an old BC Rich Mockingbird that I had in high school. But I put Bartolini triple coil humbuckers and their 3-band active EQ in there. My mid-range is broken though, so my switch is gone and that's broken. I'm getting it repaired soon, but it still sounds pretty good because Bartolini. But I'll show you just kind of how I use it on the bass sometimes as well. Alright, Alright, so that's the same warp setting that I used on the acoustic guitar, and sometimes I will do the sequencer on this, and there's a song I've been playing with my wife in the prayer room that uses it. Anyway, it just tracks so beautifully well, and you can do, again, all the crazy rhythmic stuff, and you can do ambient stuff. Another one of my favorite ambient sounds on this one comes from, again, the multi-delay. And you can control speed, direction on all of the presets. You've got EQ shapes on there, modulation shapes on there. This pedal really does. You can watch hours on what that pedal will do. So all the reverb, all the underneath textures you hear are coming just from that. And so that's why I love using this for my bass. Here's another one of the haze settings that helps me create more of a pad with small textures underneath. But because it tracks so well, even my favorite ambient setting currently, that going back to that warp multi-delay preset, it'll do subtle things, but you can dig in, and when you're digging in, it's usually because the band is high, and so it just raises the level of like stuff behind you. It's so much fun, and so you can be having the ambient stuff, and then it tracks really well with just your low notes. But then you can kind of dig in, and it'll build up with you, but it doesn't ever get super overwhelming if you program it right. Anyway, just a super fun effect to have on the bass as well. Alright, so that's it on how to get textures with your playing and like have musical and rhythmic parts, or just things, you know, things underneath your playing that'll blend in with your reverb, and I love all those sounds. The key to it though is don't get in a hurry. Don't get in a hurry, and then know your settings. That's one of the reasons on some of those knobs. These guys down here, I'll have it programmed to control my tails, whether it's a delay or reverb tail. I'll have it controlling my tails because you don't want the tails to get out of hand if you're playing too much, but you don't want them to fade away too quickly if you're playing too little. And so there's this fine balance of your tail and your mix that you got to watch on your reverb, and then those textured things like that. And so you don't have to get just those pedals. I'm sure there's other pedals out there. Those are the ones that I chose for me because I like the uniqueness of what they do, and I like the control that I had. But really, any type of micro looping or delay pedal that'll get you some glitch sounds that you can control the speed, the direction, maybe shape an EQ or shape some modulation in it, is what you're looking for. And so all those do that for me, and each one, even though they're all kind of similar in nature, they all provide like this special, unique little blend of what only they could bring. And so I like the 4 of those. I still like my reverb, and then maybe if you guys like this, I can do a rundown of my whole pedal board and show you a little bit more of how everything works together, because I didn't get into but just one aspect of the pedal board. But I thought it would be useful as a part 2 of sorts to making live dynamic pads with your acoustic guitar, but adding texture and stuff. And so I do this with acoustic, I do this with electric, and then again at the end I'll use that microcosm even for my bass. And it's such a cool tool. Like when you only have keys and a guitar and a bass and a drummer, and you don't have a whole lot of instrumentation going on, it's nice to just add an extra layer of something, whether that be a pad when the dynamics come down to catch you so the music doesn't just drop off completely, or if it being an extra like textural bit that'll help you climb dynamically. So anyway, they're also helpful for that. And anyway, hope this was good, and thank you guys for watching this video. I suppose I'm done now. That's it.